Can you tell us how you got into this position of where you're working with the governor, trying to move the needle? Like, what brought you to public service, and how's it been? How's that path been?
Ryan, totally by accident. So when I was in college, I wanted to be a stockbroker. And I remember trying to get an internship in different places and had an internship um, working in Wall Street to just, figure it out. And I left that intern and I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And then a buddy of mine who was a prior graduate of my alma mater in Southern New Jersey, Rowan University, was working in the state legislature. And he said, hey, I know you need an internship. These are paid, which was great for a college student who was broke to hear about a paid internship, and said, I want come on up. So I did it. And almost immediately when I got there, I had a deeper appreciation for something that I think, Ryan, I know you know, and so many others know. Government touches every aspect of our life. And if you ever want to be in a position to help shape what that looks like, you have to be in or around government. And as soon as I got there and started understanding that, I was like, I want to be a part of this. And just by happenstance, when I graduated college, the local state reps in my area changed the seat that at one point had been Republican, became Democrat when they won. And someone remembered this kid who grew up in the district, meaning myself, who was a good intern, maybe a good guy to have as a legislative staffer. So they hired me as a legislative aide, and I learned a lot. Got paid no money hardly, but learned a lot, and just kept matriculating up the ladder from legislative aide to legislative director to ultimately leaving that office and becoming chief of staff for our former majority leader, who became Speaker of the New Jersey General Assembly, our state house. And been being around this, coming from intern to staffer, and then in 2011 getting an opportunity to run because of our redistricting process, getting a chance to run in a seat that I had worked for the members, grew up in that district, came full circle. And I remember standing in the well of our state house general assembly when I got the pin on my chest, and I said that, it was so overwhelmed with emotion, like, I started here as an intern and as a staffer, and I've learned and loved this institution. To now to be able to call myself a member was the highest thing I've ever done at that point in my life. And it was so overwhelming emotionally for me that it just came full circle, right? So did all those things and had the honor of going to our state senate post election of 2017, and been on the senate side ever since.
Can you talk about that transformation? I think there's a lot of staffers that walk around and are like, I could do that job. Uh, um, but, and there's a lot of staffers that walk around and are like, I never want to do that job. Uh, so what was it like going from, working for members to being a member?
Yeah, I think the first of all, that movement is one of those things. All of us have done this, right? And if you've ever worked in the business for working for members, you're always sitting there either looking at votes or looking at bills, and you're thinking what you would do, right, if the chance became of it. And it got to the point where people who were around me often were like, "You're always talking about if you had this chance, what you should do." Well, your former boss is retiring. It's going to be an open seat. Why don't you run for office? Why don't you run? And I sat back and I was like, you know what? Why not? And I did it. Closest election I've ever had, won by like 1,200, 1,400 votes in that district. Out of like, the district has 225, 230,000 people, and won by like 12, 1,400, right? Um, and I just remember that first victory and going through it. And it was this idea of like, you know what? Now you sit in this seat. So no longer were you the guy behind the scenes who didn't have to carry the weight of the decision. All you were the input person. You gave a lot of input, said, "Hey, I think this is what we should do," but now the weight of the decision falls upon your shoulders. It did take some getting used to at first, but after a while, public service, which is I think one of the biggest and best things we can do in support of our neighbor in this representative democracy, was the idea that you could effectuate the kind of change you've always talked about. And that to me was what has been my allure of public service, like really being in a position to see a problem, fix a problem, and try and see the change in the community I want to see.